folks, Bubba is back with you. I've got a couple C-130 stories here for you. They're not very long stories, just a couple short ones here. I can't tell you firsthand whether these are true or not. I remember hearing them from guys that I thought were pretty reputable, so I'm going to share them with you. If for nothing else, it makes kind of a neat, entertaining story, a couple stories here for New Year's. So the first one involved a crew that was stationed in South Vietnam, and they had, I think it was like a TY assignment, where they had airplanes sitting on the ramp on alert, if you will. Anyway, they performed maintenance on this one airplane, and they had towed it, or it was sitting out on the ramp, and they needed to push it back into a revetment. But they didn't have a tug or a tow bar, and they needed to get the dang thing off the taxiway. Okay, fine. So they called over to operations, and they said, listen, we got this airplane, and we need to have moved back into the ramp, or into the revetment. Would you have anybody that could help us out? Well, there was a pilot and a loadmaster around that said, yeah, we can give you a hand. So they hopped over to the airplane and got in it, did a pre-flight, got in it, lowered the ramp door so the loadmaster could look out the back and kind of keep an eye on everything as the pilot was backing up. So that's what you had. I mean, this is real setup for disaster. So you had the pilot in the left seat and the loadmaster staring out the ramp. They got clearance to move the C-130 using reverse thrust, and away they went. So they released the brakes and started backing up into the ramp, and all of a sudden, all the yellow lights and all the red lights and a couple of green lights and blue lights and whatever else they had in the cockpit started lighting up. A few horns went off. Holy crap, fire lights came on. You get the idea. Okay, well, right away they stopped the airplane, set the brake, and shut everything down, and fired the fire bottles on the engines that showed they were on fire. Everything kind of got settled down and whatnot. And by the time they got out, what the hell happened? They'd kind of figured out that what they did is the loadmaster's left wasn't the same as the pilot's left as he's giving them instructions. And they ended up back taxiing into a engine stand. And it only takes one prop to hit an engine stand to start tearing things apart when you got a C-130 like that. So that's kind of what happened. But what made the story even more, that's not funny, okay, but what it made it kind of entertaining, I guess, rather than say funny, was this pilot knew that kind of his career was almost over, and what do I have to lose now? So sure enough, out comes the chief of maintenance in his blue car and his brick, and he says, what the hell happened here? The pilot says, well, he says, I was sitting in the ready room in ops there, and he says, always got to wondering what would happen if I ever back taxied a C-130, reverse taxied it into an engine stand. He says, so we didn't have anything else to do, so out we came, and that's what happened, sir. He says, I hit the damn stand trying to put the airplane back in the revetment. That's what happened. Okay, don't know whatever happened to him, don't know anything beyond that, but that's the story I got. The other one, it's a little bit more interesting, I suppose. It involved a C-130 crew leaving Hawaii, flying to Guam, and it was a night flight, and the engineer on the airplane was a very senior C-130 engineer. Might have been like a senior master sergeant, could have been a chief master sergeant, but I'm not sure now. Doesn't matter. And when they left Hawaii, they had a flight engineer, flight evaluator hop on board to give him a check, or the flight engineer check ride. Okay, the guy was a young tech sergeant from Scott, and he'd just gotten certified as a check airman, if you will. So he gets on the airplane, and they take off and get up to altitude, level off. And like I said, it's night. And so this tech sergeant starts playing stump the dummy with the old chief. What's this do? What's the power setting here? What's the power source of this engine? What's the function of this? How's that work? And this, that, and the other. This goes on for about 2 or 3 hours. He's really working the guy over beyond what he needed to. But at any rate, as they're droning along, the flight engineer evaluator reaches up, grabs the APU fire handle and pulls it. Now, if I remember correctly, the APU doesn't work in a C-130 once you get airborne. It's wired through the gear switch, and so pulling the fire handle doesn't do anything. It's biased out of the system. So anyway, this engineer reaches up, grabs the APU fire handle and pulls it, and then looks at the old chief. The old chief looks at him, reaches up, and grabs number 1 engine fire handle, pulls it. The airplane goes, as the engine shuts down. The chief looks at the tech sergeant and says, "Your turn." Meanwhile, this tech sergeant just about croaked. The 2 pilots are sitting up there. That got their attention because they just had an engine shut down. They didn't know anything about it. Did the chief perform any of the required checks prior to engine shutdown? No. And the only reason we used to perform those checks was to make sure we could restart it. Well, we always performed the checks, always had to restart. So whether your chances are real slim, and this chief knew it. Anyway, I guess at that time the tech sergeant looked at him and said, "Okay, you made your point," went back downstairs and went to sleep on a pretty red bench seats. Anyway, I don't know why. I was just driving along and I was thinking about that here. Thought I'd share it with you today. So that's what I have to offer. Hope everybody has a happy new year. This is Bobo, Base Gear. Stop.